The library was silent, save for the faint rustle of pages and the distant hum of a heater kicking on. Ethan Carter, bleary-eyed and buried in textbooks, felt his eyelids droop, the weight of finals week pulling him under like a riptide. Then he woke, heart pounding, to find a leather jacket draped over him and Lucas Hayes, the campus heartthrob, watching him with eyes that held secrets. Ethan blinked, disoriented, his nap-fogged brain struggling to process the scene. The jacket smelled faintly of cedar and something unmistakably him, Lucas. The guy every student at Willow Creek University whispered about. Dark hair, a crooked smile, and a reputation for charming his way through life. Lucas was the kind of person who seemed to exist in a different universe from Ethan. A quiet biology major who preferred the company of lab slides to people. You were shivering, Lucas said, his voice low, almost teasing, as he leaned against the table. His gaze didn't waver, and Ethan felt heat creep up his neck. Figured you could use the extra layer. You. Thanks, Ethan stammered, clutching the jacket. It was warm, worn in, and far too big for him. He glanced around the library, expecting to see a crowd of onlookers. Lucas was never alone. Always trailed by admirers, but it was just them, tucked in a corner by the botany section. The golden afternoon light spilled through the window, painting Lucas's face in hues of amber and shadow. No problem. Lucas tilted his head, studying Ethan like he was a puzzle to solve. You always sleep through your study sessions. Or is this a new thing? Ethan's cheeks burned. Finals week. It's brutal. He hesitated, then added, Why are you here? Don't you have, like, a fan club to entertain? Lucas laughed, a sound that was both warm and dangerous. Maybe I'm hiding from them. Or maybe, he said, leaning closer, I saw you passed out and thought you looked interesting. Ethan's pulse spiked. Interesting. He was nobody average height. Messy brown hair. Glasses that always slid down his nose. Lucas, on the other hand, was the guy who turned heads without trying. The one rumored to have dated half the campus and broken twice as many hearts. Yet here he was, lingering, his eyes tracing Ethan's face like he was memorizing it. Interesting's a stretch, Ethan muttered, pushing his glasses up. I'm just trying to survive organic chemistry. Lucas grinned, undeterred. You're selling yourself short. Ethan Carter. Ethan froze. You know my name? Saw it on your notebook. Lucas nodded toward the spiral-bound mess on the table. Ethan's name scrawled in Sharpie across the cover. Plus, I've seen you around. You're hard to miss. The words hit Ethan like a shockwave. He'd spent 3 years at Willow Creek blending into the background, content to be invisible. Now, Lucas Hayes was looking at him like he was the only person in the room. It was exhilarating and terrifying. Before Ethan could respond, a shadow fell over the table. A girl with sharp eyes and a tighter smile stood there, her arms crossed. Lucas, you're late, she said, her tone clipped. The group's waiting at the quad. Lucas didn't look away from Ethan. Tell them I'm busy. Mia? Mia's gaze flicked to Ethan, sizing him up. Busy with this. Her voice dripped with skepticism, and Ethan shrank under her stare. He knew that look, the one that said he didn't belong in Lucas's orbit. Yep, Lucas said, unfazed. Catch you later. Mia? She huffed and stalked off, leaving Ethan reeling. You didn't have to do that, he said quietly. I mean, I'm fine. You don't have to. Stay? Maybe I want to, Lucas replied, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable. He pulled out a chair and sat, closer than Ethan expected, their knees brushing under the table. So, tell me, What's a guy like you doing napping in the library when you could be out there living? Ethan laughed. A nervous sound. Living's overrated. I'd rather study algae than deal with people. Algae? Huh. Lucas raised an eyebrow. You're gonna have to explain that one. And so Ethan did. He talked about his research, his love for the microscopic world, the way life thrived in places no one noticed. Lucas listened, really listened, his eyes never leaving Ethan's face. It was disarming. The way he seemed to care, the way he leaned in like Ethan's words mattered. Hours slipped by, the library emptying as the sun dipped lower, and Ethan found himself talking more than he had in years. But the ease of the moment didn't last. As they left the library, Lucas walking close enough that their shoulders brushed, Ethan overheard whispers. Is that Lucas with him? What's he doing with that nerd? The word stung, but Lucas didn't seem to notice or care. He just kept talking, his voice a steady anchor against the tide of judgment. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, leaves crunching under their feet. Lucas stopped by a stone bench, his expression shifting, like he was weighing something heavy. You ever feel like you're playing a role? He asked suddenly. Like everyone expects you to be someone you're not. Ethan nodded, surprised. All the time. I'm the quiet guy, the science geek. People don't expect much else. Lucas's eyes softened. I get that. Everyone thinks I'm this untouchable guy. The heartthrob. He said the word with a bitter edge. But sometimes, I just want to be real. With someone who gets it. Ethan's heart stuttered. Was Lucas saying what he thought he was? Before he could ask, Lucas reached out, his fingers brushing Ethan's wrist. You're different. Ethan. I like that. The touch was brief, electric, and gone too soon. Lucas stepped back, his smile returning. But there was something new in his Aisa promise. Maybe. Or a question. See you around. Science guy? He said, then turned and walked away, leaving Ethan standing there, clutching the jacket that still smelled like him. That night, Ethan lay awake, replaying every word, every glance. Lucas Hayes wasn't just a campus myth, was real, flawed, and impossibly close. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was the start of something bigger, something that could unravel them both. The next morning, Ethan woke with Lucas's jacket still slung over his chair, a tangible reminder that yesterday wasn't a dream. He pulled it on, the leather heavy against his shoulders, and headed to campus, his heart a tangle of hope and nerves. By noon, rumors were already swirling. Lucas Hayes had been seen with some guy in the library, and the campus gossip mill was relentless. Ethan tried to focus on his lab work, peering through a microscope at algae samples, but his mind kept drifting to Lucas's smile, his voice, that fleeting touch. He was so lost in thought that he didn't notice his lab partner, Priya, watching him with a knowing grin. Spill, she said, nudging him. What's with the jacket? And don't tell me it's yours, it's way too cool for you. Ethan flushed. It's borrowed. Borrowed from who? Priya's eyes widened. Wait. No way. Lucas Hayes. He nodded, and Priya squealed, drawing stares from the other students in the lab. Ethan, do you know what this means? He's like the guy, and he gave you his jacket. It's not a big deal, Ethan mumbled, but his racing pulse disagreed. He hadn't seen Lucas since last night, and part of him wondered if it had all been a fluky moment that meant nothing to someone like Lucas, who could have anyone he wanted. But then Lucas found him. Ethan was crossing the quad, head down against the chilly wind, when a familiar voice called his name. He turned to see Lucas jogging toward him, his breath visible in the crisp air. You're hard to track down. Science guy? Lucas said, his grin infectious. "You're the one who's always surrounded." Ethan shot back, surprising himself with the ease of it. Lucas laughed, falling into step beside him. And for a moment, it felt like they'd done this 100 times. They ended up at a coffee shop off campus. A small place with mismatched chairs and the smell of roasted beans. Lucas ordered for both of them black coffee for himself. A latte for Ethan, somehow knowing exactly what he'd like. They sat by the window, the world outside blurring as they talked. Lucas shared stories of growing up in a small town, where being openly bisexual meant navigating a minefield of judgment. Ethan opened up about his own struggles coming out to his conservative family, the loneliness of keeping parts of himself hidden. "I saw you in the library a few times before," Lucas admitted, stirring his coffee. "You always looked so focused, like you were in your own world. I wanted to know what that was like." Ethan's heart skipped. "You could have just said hi." "Yeah. Well, I'm not as smooth as people think." Lucas's smile was sheepish, and Ethan realized he wasn't just the campus heartthrob, was human, vulnerable, searching for something real. Their conversation was interrupted by a group of Lucas's friends bursting into the shop, loud and demanding his attention. One of them, a guy named Jake, gave Ethan a once-over, his smirk dripping with condescension. "Didn't know you were into charity cases." "Hayes," he said, and the others laughed. Lucas's jaw tightened. "Knock it off, Jake." But the damage was done. Ethan felt the familiar sting of being an outsider, the guy who didn't fit. He stood, mumbling an excuse about a lab deadline, and slipped out before Lucas could stop him. Outside, the cold bit at his skin, but it was nothing compared to the ache in his chest. He avoided Lucas for the next few days, burying himself in schoolwork. But the jacket stayed on his chair, a silent question he couldn't answer. Then, late one night, his phone buzzed with a text, "Meet me at the library. Please." Ethan's resolve crumbled. He grabbed the jacket and went, finding Lucas waiting in their corner, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "I'm sorry about Jake," Lucas said before Ethan could speak. "He's an idiot, and I should have shut him down harder." "It's fine," Ethan lied, but Lucas shook his head. "It's not. I like you, Ethan, a lot, and I don't care what anyone thinks." The words hung between them, heavy and electric. Ethan wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at him. "Why me?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. "You could have anyone." Lucas stepped closer, his eyes fierce. "Because you're real. You don't play games. You don't pretend to be someone you're not. And when I'm with you, I don't have to either." Ethan's breath caught. Lucas was close now, so close Ethan could feel the warmth of him. "I'm scared," Ethan admitted, the truth spilling out. It's new. And it's big." "Me too," Lucas said softly. "But I want to figure it out. With you." They stood there, the library silent around them, and Ethan felt something shift, a spark of courage, of hope. He reached for Lucas's hand, their fingers intertwining, and for the first time, he didn't care who was watching. The weeks that followed were a blur of stolen moments and quiet revelations. Ethan and Lucas met in the library, the coffee shop, or tucked away in a campus garden, their world shrinking to just the two of them. Lucas taught Ethan how to loosen up, dragging him to open mic nights where Lucas's guitar playing left Ethan breathless. Ethan showed Lucas the beauty of the unseen, sharing his microscope slides and explaining the quiet magic of life at its smallest scale. But the campus wasn't a bubble. Whispers followed them, some curious, some cruel. Ethan overheard snatches of gossip. "Lucas is just slumming it. That guy's not even in his league." Each word chipped away at Ethan's confidence. But Lucas was a steady presence, his hand finding Ethan's in crowded rooms, his smile a shield against the world. One evening, they sat on a hill overlooking the campus, the sky streaked with pink and gold. Lucas draped his jacket over Ethan's shoulders, a gesture that had become their unspoken ritual. "You okay?" Lucas asked, sensing Ethan's quiet mood. Ethan hesitated. "I keep waiting for this to fall apart. Like, you'll wake up and realize I'm not worth the trouble." Lucas turned to him, his expression fierce. "You're worth everything, Ethan. Don't let anyone make you feel less." The intensity in his voice made Ethan's heart ache. He leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that was soft, then urgent, a promise sealed under the fading light. It was their first, and it felt like coming home. But trouble was brewing. Mia, the girl from the library, hadn't let go of her grudge. She cornered Ethan outside his dorm one night, her words sharp as knives. "You think you're special," she spat. "Lucas gets bored. He always does. You're just the flavor of the month." Ethan wanted to shrug it off, but her words sank deep, feeding his insecurities. He started pulling back, skipping their usual meetups, answering Lucas's texts with short replies. Lucas noticed. Of course, they always did. One night, he showed up at Ethan's dorm, his face a mix of worry and frustration. "Talk to me," Lucas said, standing in the doorway. "What's going on?" Ethan's resolve cracked. He told Lucas about Mia, about the doubts that kept him up at night. "I'm not like you," he said, voice breaking. "I don't belong in your world. People like me, we don't get guys like you." Lucas stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "My world," he said, his voice low and fierce. "My world's been fake smiles and empty hookups. You're the first real thing I've found. Ethan, don't push me away." Tears stung Ethan's eyes. "I'm trying not to, but it's hard. I'm scared of losing this." Lucas pulled him close, his arms steady and warm. "You're not gonna lose me. I'm in this, Ethan. All in." They held each other, the room quiet except for the sound of their breathing. Ethan felt the weight of his fears lift, replaced by something stronger: trust. Maybe. Or love. He wasn't sure yet, but he wanted to find out. The next day, Lucas took a stand at a campus event, with half the student body watching. He walked straight to Ethan, took his hand, and kissed him in front of everyone. The crowd went silent, then erupted in a mix of cheers and whispers. Ethan's face burned, but Lucas just grinned, unapologetic. "Let them talk," he said. "I'm done hiding." For the first time, Ethan felt seen not as the quiet science geek, but as someone who mattered, someone worthy of love. But even as they stood together, a new shadow loomed. Lucas's family was coming to visit, and Ethan knew from their talks that they weren't exactly open-minded. The thought of facing them made Ethan's stomach twist. But Lucas squeezed his hand. "We'll face it together," he promised. Lucas's parents arrived on a crisp Saturday morning, their presence casting a pall over the campus. Ethan met them at a university dinner, his nerves fraying as Lucas introduced him as "my boyfriend, Mr. Hayes." A stern man with Lucas's sharp jawline barely acknowledged Ethan, while Mrs. Hayes offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. The tension was palpable, and Ethan felt like an intruder in their polished world. Dinner was a minefield. Lucas's father grilled him about his grades, his future, his distractions. The word hung heavy, and Ethan knew it was aimed at him. Lucas, usually so confident, seemed smaller under his father's gaze. But he didn't back down. "Ethan's not a distraction," he said firmly. He's the best thing in my life. The table went silent. Ethan's heart swelled, but fear followed close behind. After dinner, Mr. Hayes pulled Lucas aside, their voices low but heated. Ethan caught fragments: disappointment, phase, family reputation. When Lucas returned, his face was pale, but he took Ethan's hand under the table, his grip fierce. Later, they escaped to the library, their sanctuary. Lucas was quiet. His usual spark dimmed. They want me to transfer, he said finally, to some Ivy League school. Start over. Be the son they want. Ethan's stomach dropped. What did you say? I told them no. Lucas looked at him, his eyes fierce with resolve. I'm not leaving you. Or this. I'm done living for them. Ethan wanted to believe him, but the weight of Lucas's family loomed large. Over the next week, the pressure mounted. Lucas's parents called daily, their disapproval a constant shadow. Ethan saw the toll it took: Lucas's sleepless nights, his forced smiles. But he also saw Lucas fight for them, refusing to bend. One night, Ethan found Lucas sitting on the hill where they'd shared their first kiss. I told them I'm bisexual, Lucas said, his voice raw. I told them about you. Everything. They didn't take it well. Ethan sat beside him, their shoulders touching. I'm sorry, he whispered. I never wanted to cause you pain. You didn't. Lucas turned to him, his eyes shining. You gave me the courage to be honest. For the first time, I feel like I'm living for me. Ethan reached for his hand, their fingers lacing together. What happens now? We keep going, Lucas said. Together. They'll come around. Or they won't. But I choose you. The words settled deep in Ethan's chest, a warmth that chased away the cold. They kissed, slow and certain, under a sky full of stars. It wasn't a fairy tale ending. There were still battles to fight, judgments to face, but it was theirs. Hard-won and real. Months later, at graduation, Ethan stood in his cap and gown, Lucas's jacket draped over his shoulders. Lucas was there, cheering louder than anyone, his smile brighter than the sun. They'd faced gossip, doubt, and family strife, but they'd come out stronger. Their love a quiet rebellion against a world that tried to pull them apart. As they walked across campus one last time, hand in hand, Ethan realized something. Love wasn't just the big moments, the kisses, the declarations. It was the small things: the jacket over his shoulders, the way Lucas looked at him like he was enough. And in that moment, Ethan knew he was ready to face whatever came next, as long as Lucas was by his side.